Bicycling in the Netherlands. Approximately 22,000 miles of bicycle paths crisscross the Netherlands, making cycling in and between Dutch cities safe and convenient. In fact, according to the European Cyclists Federation, the Netherlands is one of the two most bike-friendly countries in Europe, sharing top honors with Denmark. While the Netherlands is well known as a cycling hub, less well known is how was that reputation earned. So here I need to decide the correct way to write this fragment. And if this is being said, I should say less well known is how that reputation was earned. That reputation was earned, and it has to end with a full stop because it's not a question. So A and B are out, and that reputation will come before was earned. So C. Persistent activism over many years was instrumental to the enduring popularity of cycling among the Dutch. In the early 20th century, the Dutch were cycling enthusiasts, not only riding but also manufacturing bicycles in large numbers. Now, here again, I have to decide the fragment. So it can't be B. They were not only riding is a new sentence, so you can't put it after a comma. It can't be C because this is not a complete sentence. So it can't be any of these. The way it's written is good, that they were cycling enthusiasts, not only riding, but also manufacturing bicycles in large numbers. Cycling made sense in the flat, densely populated country as personal income grew in the post-war boom years of the 1950s and 1960s. Car ownership rose sharply and cars began to eclipse bikes in popularity. Now, here we are talking about cycling making sense in a flat country. And then we are talking about how car ownership rose in the 1950s and 60s. So I need to use a contrasting connector because I'm talking about the contrast or the shift from cycles to cars, right? So however is the best answer. In short, in other words, and therefore, they don't fit the transition. Along with more cars came an alarming spike in traffic accidents on narrow streets not designed to accommodate large number of cars. At this point, the writer wants to add the following sentence. One type of bicycle popular with the Dutch was known as the grandma bike. Okay, so it doesn't make sense to talk about it at this stage because here we are talking about the problems with rising car ownership. So option C, no, because it blurs the paragraph's focus on the history of cycling in the Netherlands. Option D, no, because it doesn't sufficiently support the claim that the Omar Fiat was popular. So C is the best answer because here we are talking about the history of cycling and the fact that it was eclipsed by car ownership. So what type of cycle is popular doesn't make sense here. By the 1970s, concerned citizens started organizing demonstrations to promote safety for cyclists and pedestrians. They declared car-free holidays, closing off streets and hosting street parties. They organized mass bike rides. They wrote protest songs and serenaded the Prime Minister outside his residence. Outside his residence, right? His house, not residence. So, see. Tom Godfrey, a longtime member of the Dutch Cyclists Union, Fighters Bond, recalls that the activist efforts often led to good publicity. Okay, so we're talking about the Dutch Cyclists Union, which was known as the Fighters Bond. So this bracket here makes sense, and the comma will come here because I'm describing who Godfrey was, right? So the way it's written looks good, option A. We had a great fighting spirit and we knew how to voice our ideas, he recounted in a 2015 interview. The writer plans to add the following sentence. These citizens expressed their serious concerns using various inventive, sometimes playful tactics. So here I'm talking about concerned citizens, right? So if I'm talking about concerned citizens in the first line, then these citizens should come after that line because when I talk about inventive and playful tactics, I'm talking about car-free holidays, closing off streets, and so on. So after sentence 1. As the 1980s approached, local governments began to respond to the demonstrations by Fighters Bond and other groups by funding projects to improve the nation's cycling infrastructure. As a result of the improved infrastructure, more people were encouraged to use bicycles as their primary means of transport. Which choice most effectively combines the sentences? So, funding projects to improve the nation's cycling infrastructure. In addition, more people, that doesn't make sense because this was a result of this. And along with the improvements came the encouragement of more people, which was accompanied by more people, which in turn encouraged more people, right? So this is the best transition because it provides a direct relationship between projects that were funded to improve the nation's cycling infrastructure, which in turn encouraged more people to use bicycles. The improvements made cycling easier and safer. Some funding came from private donors, which choice provides a supporting example most similar to the other examples. Okay. Bike lanes and racks appeared on city streets, many of which featured speed bumps and turns that forced cars to drive more slowly than they would on streets without those features and to yield. Okay. So the fact that funding came from private donors is not relevant here. Fighters Bond and its allies had many other successes. Cycling was preferred to driving by a large number of commuters. Bicycle paths were clearly marked, well maintained, and well lit. So, this is an example of the kind of improvements that happened in infrastructure. Bicycle paths were clearly marked, well maintained, and well lit. Bike lanes and racks appeared on city streets, many of which featured speed bumps and turns that forced car drivers to drive more slowly than they would on streets without those features and to yield. That force cars to drive slowly and yield to cyclists, right? Yeah. Because first of all, yield to whom, right? That's important. So just saying yield doesn't make sense. And I'm already saying that they forced cars to drive slowly, so I don't have to repeat force them. So C. Promoting cycling continues to be a national priority in the 21st century, and the Dutch government often partners with cycling organizations to craft policies that improve access and safety for cyclists. The challenges remain. Fighters Bond, now more than 34,000 members strong, 34,000 members strong, continues to advocate for the cycling community. Okay, let's grade this. Number 12. CADCC, CADCC 17, AADDC, AADDC, and 22 is B.